Heyo, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about gratitude, and this will be continuing a series that I started a while ago, and so if you want to watch the previous videos, they'll be available. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot recently about being grateful for what I have. I had a lot of fun in school studying psychology, and one little tidbit that stuck out to me was the fact that we are so prone to ruminate on the negative things instead of the positive, and more likely to remember the bad things that happen to us as opposed to the good things. And it takes about 5 positive things to outweigh the effect of 1 negative thing. I wish that that wasn't our tendency, but it is so true that that's the way that we gravitate towards remembering the things that were difficult and hard and made us upset rather than the things that we're happy for. And so that's just evidence that we have to choose what we're looking at. And if we want to have joy in our lives, then we have to focus on the things that are good and joyful, and we have to put intentional effort into that and work towards that, because if you sit around not doing anything, probably not going to be very happy, because all you'll be able to think about is the negative things. Like, it takes effort, it takes discipline to choose joy. You have to look for it, you have to focus on it rather than it just coming upon you and sticking there. But the good news with that is also the adaptability of the way that God made our brains. The things that we focus on, we're creating tracks in our brains that's what we think of. We're creating links that this is what we're going towards. For example, I dug myself into a hole with this when I was like 13 because there was this boy I liked, and he liked my sister. And we had used to be friends, and then he kind of like dumped me for her. And not that I think he was being intentionally mean, but I just like saw all this evidence of like, oh, he doesn't like me and he doesn't want to talk to me, and he just like only wants to talk to her, and like I'm invisible to both of them now. And then the more that I thought that, the more evidence I saw for that, because that became my brain's automatic interpretation of these circumstances. That was the track that was the most worn down in my brain. And so that was the track that my neurons took. Whenever I was presented with any kind of stimulus, I was like, oh, conclusion, they hate me. And so I just got more and more sensitive to all these little things that probably weren't even actually them intentionally trying to hurt me. But that just became the way that I interpreted it, and I let myself be super, super hurt, because that was how I taught myself to interpret my life in that season. So it's easy to go the negative route of that, but the fortunate thing is we can retrain our brains to focus on the good. And it's definitely a lot harder, and it's a tougher uphill climb, but it is possible that like as I look for things in my life to be grateful for, I'm gonna find things. And the more I look, the more I'm gonna find. And the more I look at my life with the interpretation of I'm going to be grateful for this, the more gratitude I'm gonna have, because I'm going to see all of the little blessings that God has given me. It's not like they're not there. It's just that I'm not paying attention to them or not letting them affect me as much as they could. And instead choosing to dwell on the negative and trying to find all these ways to interpret my life to come to the conclusion that it sucks. And I don't want to be making myself miserable, and it really is pretty much self-inflicted. Like, yes, I'm fighting our natural tendencies, but also like if I'm being negative, I'm choosing not to fight against that. And I do have the power to make that choice towards joy and towards God and towards believing in His goodness. And so there are like a couple different situations in my life that I'm a little disappointed with and discontent with. But instead of dwelling on that and looking for all of the evidence to support that theory, I want to instead focus on the good things and the blessings and the things that I'm grateful for, and be really intentional about those. And not just in my head, but like writing things down, because writing things down also for some reason helps us to remember them better. I always had to do that to memorize my biology definitions in high school. I never wanted to because it took a lot of time and my hand got cramped, but it was worth it to actually be able to remember stuff instead of just repeating it in my head. And so I've started trying to have like a gratitude journal of looking for the things that I am grateful for about these difficult situations, and like focusing on the good parts of my relationships with these people, so that that becomes the lens that my brain interprets it, and I'm able to have a more objective / biased towards positive view of my life and these situations, because that's what I want to know. It's not all terrible, horrible, gloomy, and I just need to train myself to realize that. So, oh, excuse you. Another thing that I had to be aware of in studying psychology and looking at all these different research statistics is people are complicated, and when you try to study people, it's a little hard. And there's this thing called, what is it called? There's this thing called information bias, where it's easy to find things to back up our conclusion. People are so complicated. If your theory is birds of a feather stick together, and you go around looking for evidence for that, you're gonna find evidence for that. And you'll be like, great, this theory holds up. If you have the idea that opposites attract, you can go around studying people and be like, oh my gosh, this is so true. This must be how the world works. because we're so complicated and kind of both are true. And so to some degree, like, you can really start bringing the information bias to the table. If I come at my life with the conclusion of these people hate me, that's what I'm going to see, and I'm going to find all of this evidence to back up that theory. But if I come to it with the conclusion, hey, people like me, I'm pretty cool, I can make friends, then I'm going to find it a lot easier to reach out to people and actually make friends. And so it really, really matters the mindset that we have. And so yeah, it's just an encouragement to look for the good things, to choose joy, to choose gratitude, because that's so important. The more we focus on it, the easier it's going to become. I just wanted to finish by reading the very famous little verse in Philippians 4:8, which says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." And I feel like that really is Paul's encouragement to us, that yeah, it's easy to look for the negative things, but find the things that are good and true and pure and lovely and choose to think about those things. Set your mind on those. And ultimately, God is the one that fulfills all those qualifications. And so we should most of all be thinking about him. And our lives will be a lot better and we'll be a lot happier. So thank you for watching, and goodbye until more interesting things happen.